The winter wind clawed through the cracked glass doors of a corner grocery on South Douglas Avenue. Fluorescent lights hummed above the aisles, throwing a pale glow over empty shelves and weary faces. Gabriel Miles, a man whose name lived quietly on the cover of Forbes but rarely on his own lips, waited by the coffee machine scrolling through numbers that had once ruled his life. He looked like any other middle-aged shopper, dark wool coat, silver at his temples, eyes tired from success. Then a small voice cut through the drone of refrigeration units. "I promise to pay when I grow up." The words floated like a prayer, so fragile the air itself seemed to hold its breath. Gabriel turned. At the end of the dairy aisle stood a little black girl clutching a half-empty bottle of milk and a baby wrapped in a faded blanket. Her sneakers were soaked, her shirt thin as paper. Behind the register, the cashier scowled. "This isn't a shelter, sweetheart. Put that back and go." The child didn't move. She swallowed hard, eyes bright but steady. "My brother's hungry. Mama's asleep. I'll pay when I grow up." Gabriel's phone dimmed in his hand. He stepped forward before he could think. "She's not stealing," he said calmly. The cashier blinked, recognizing him too late. "Mr. Miles, I mean, she just—" "I heard her," Gabriel replied. "Ring it up." The girl's name, he learned, was Lila. The baby was Noah. Their mother, Maya, was sick, and tonight the heat under the bridge had gone out. As Gabriel crouched to her level, the store's buzz faded into silence. "What's your name again?" "Lila Johnson." "And this little man?" "Noah. He's one." She said it with the pride of someone twice her age. When she lifted the bottle of milk to the counter, her hands trembled, not from guilt but from cold. Gabriel noticed the purple tinge on her knuckles. "Do you have a coat?" he asked softly. She shook her head. "I wrapped Noah in the blanket. It's the warmest thing we got." The cashier hesitated. Then scanned the milk. Gabriel added formula, bread, diapers, and a small box of cereal shaped like stars. When the total flashed on the screen, he placed his card down without looking at the amount. Lila stared up at him, confusion and gratitude tangling in her tiny face. "You don't have to, sir. I said I'll pay you back when I grow up." Gabriel smiled. "I don't doubt you for a second." Outside, the cold hit like a wall. Wind pushed snow along the pavement in ghostly streaks. Gabriel followed her to the edge of the parking lot. "Where's home?" he asked. "Under the bridge, 7th and Douglas. There's a dry spot behind a pipe. Mama don't like people to see us." He winced at the word home. "Do you want me to walk you there?" She hesitated. "You can, but don't talk loud. Mama gets scared easy." They walked through the frozen streets, his polished shoes crunching beside her torn sneakers. Halfway there, Noah whimpered. Without a word, Gabriel removed his heavy coat and draped it around them both. The girl gasped at the warmth. He could feel her tiny shoulders relax beneath the fabric. When they reached the overpass, the smell of damp concrete and oil thickened the air. Behind a curtain of plastic sat a woman curled beneath rags. At the sound of footsteps she bolted upright, eyes wide with panic. "Mama, it's me," Lila whispered. "This man helped us." The woman, Maya, blinked, confusion softening into exhaustion. Gabriel stayed back, letting the scene belong to them. Noah reached for his mother's face, cooing, and the tension cracked like thin ice. "I just needed the milk," Lila murmured, handing the bag to her. We're okay now. Gabriel should have walked away. He could have told himself he'd done enough. Instead he said, "Miss Johnson, I can come back tomorrow. Bring something warm. Would that be all right?" Maya's voice was a whisper scraped raw. Why? He hesitated, searching for the truth beneath politeness. Because someone should. Snow began to fall, soft. Slow, relentless. Gabriel turned to leave, but before he did, Lila called after him. "Sir." He looked back. She hugged his coat tighter around Noah and smiled, a small, defiant curve of hope. "Thank you." That night, in a penthouse high above the frozen city, Gabriel Miles sat awake beside a glass wall of light. He had built an empire on code and calculation, on knowing every risk before it happened. Yet for the first time in years, his mind refused equations. All he could see was a little girl in a torn hoodie promising to pay for milk someday. Somewhere beneath the roar of the freeway, that girl was humming to her brother under his coat. And in the quiet of luxury, a billionaire realized wealth meant nothing if it couldn't buy one simple thing, being needed. Morning crept over the city like a tired sigh. Under the 7th Street Bridge, the world was still blue with cold. Steam rose from cracked pipes, and the distant hum of cars above sounded like ghosts passing through steel. Lila stirred first, Gabriel's wool coat still draped over her shoulders, its weight like a promise she didn't quite understand. Noah whimpered in his sleep, tiny fingers clutching at the blanket. Maya Johnson sat nearby, eyes hollow from another sleepless night. She watched her daughter with a mix of pride and pain, pride for the courage that kept them alive, pain for the kind of childhood that demanded it. Her thoughts blurred with fatigue until she heard footsteps echo from beyond the bridge. A tall silhouette approached through the gray light, carrying 2 steaming cups and a paper bag. Gabriel Miles wasn't dressed like a billionaire today. No suit, no leather gloves. Just a navy sweatshirt and worn jeans, the kind of outfit that made him blend in, or almost. His eyes, sharp and patient, carried something that didn't belong to this world of rust and cold. "I brought breakfast," he said gently. Maya stiffened. "You came back. I said I would." He held out 1 cup toward her. "Hot cocoa. Not coffee. Thought it might help." She hesitated, staring at the cup as if it were a trick. Then, slowly, she reached out and took it. The warmth seeped through her cracked hands. Lila smiled shyly. "It smells like Christmas." Gabriel chuckled. That was the idea. He handed her a paper bag, eggs, sandwiches, 2 fresh blankets. "You don't owe me anything," he added, sensing the tension in Maya's jaw. "That's good," she said quietly. "Because I can't afford another thing to owe." He nodded, unoffended. He'd seen pride before, but hers wasn't arrogance. It was survival stitched into the bone. For a while, they ate in silence. The air smelled faintly of wet concrete and something softer, hope, maybe, or the memory of it. Gabriel watched the way Maya kept glancing toward the street, alert for danger. "You don't have to stay out here," he said finally. Her laugh was brittle. "You think I haven't heard that before?" "They all say it, church volunteers, city folks. Then they send you somewhere crowded and loud, full of drunks and rules that don't fit a baby's cry." She looked away. "This bridge is cruel, but it's predictable." "I understand," Gabriel said. "No," she replied sharply. "You don't." He didn't argue. Instead, he looked at Lila, her small fingers wiping crumbs from Noah's lips, her eyes bright despite the hunger. "She's brave," he said softly. Maya's expression softened. "She's her father's child." Before he left, he told her the world only listens to people who speak with their hearts. Guess she took that seriously. Gabriel tilted his head. "And what about you?" "I stopped speaking a long time ago." Her words hit like wind through broken glass, cold, cutting, honest. Gabriel didn't try to fill the silence. Instead, he placed something beside her, a folded note with his number. "In case you ever want help. No conditions. Just a call." She stared at the paper like it might burn her fingers. "Why are you doing this?" "Because I can," he said simply. "And because someone once did it for me." Before she could reply, Lila tugged at her sleeve. "Mama, he gave us real food. Can we say thank you?" Maya hesitated, then nodded. Together they said it, soft but sure. "Thank you, Mr. Miles." He smiled faintly. "Just Gabriel." When he left, the wind picked up again, carrying the faint smell of snow and exhaust. Maya watched him disappear into the light, her pulse unsteady. People didn't come back. Not in her world. That night, she unfolded his note again, tracing the clean handwriting with trembling fingers. Lila slept soundly beside her, Noah's breath steady against her chest. The city roared above them, indifferent and endless. But for the first time in months, Maya didn't feel invisible. Under the bridge, where names were forgotten and stories rarely told, one small act of kindness had carved a new kind of silence, not of fear, but of possibility. And somewhere in his penthouse of glass and quiet, Gabriel Miles looked out over the city lights and whispered to himself, "Tomorrow, I'll come earlier." He didn't know why, only that he needed to. Because beneath the bridge, someone still mattered. The next morning arrived on a breath of frost. The city glittered under a pale sun, but beneath the 7th Street Bridge, time stood still. Gabriel Miles' black sedan idled quietly at the curb as he stepped out, holding 2 paper bags and a folded coat draped over his arm. He had spent the night thinking, not about his company, not about the markets, but about a little girl's promise echoing in his head. "I'll pay when I grow up." That simple sentence had unsettled him in ways success never could. When he reached the underpass, Maya was already awake, mending a torn blanket with careful stitches. Her eyes darted toward him immediately, cautious but curious. Lila spotted him first and grinned wide. "You came back, Mr. Gabriel." "I said I would," he replied with a small smile. "And I brought something." He handed Maya the coat first, black wool, lined, strong against the cold. She hesitated to touch it, her fingers hovering like it might vanish if she reached too fast. This is too much." "It's just a coat," he said gently. "The city won't miss it, but you will." She finally accepted it, pressing the warmth to her chest. Her lips parted, but no words came. Lila twirled beside her, clutching the edge of Gabriel's sleeve. "Mama, look. It's soft like clouds." Gabriel laughed softly. "You've got good taste, Lila. You should be in charge of my fashion choices." For a moment, the bridge didn't feel so gray. They sat together near the concrete pillar where sunlight streamed through the cracks. Gabriel unpacked the bags, eggs, milk, canned soup, bread, and a small plush toy for Noah. The baby's eyes lit up as he reached for it with tiny hands. Maya's eyes softened, though suspicion still lingered. "You keep bringing things we didn't ask for." "I know, Gabriel replied, meeting her gaze. But sometimes what we don't ask for is exactly what we need. The words settled between them, gentle but weighted. She studied him carefully, the clean lines of his face, the quiet way he moved, the absence of pity in his eyes. "You talk like you've been where we are," she said finally. "In a different way, maybe," he admitted. "I wasn't poor, but I was forgotten. People can have everything and still be invisible." She tilted her head, intrigued. "Invisible? You?" He smiled faintly. "When I was a kid, I built things, machines, codes, ideas. But no one cared until I made money. The world only sees you when you can give it something back." Maya looked away. "Then you understand. Better than I wish I did." For a while, they said nothing. The only sounds were the rumble of cars overhead and the laughter of Lila, who was teaching Noah how to clap. Gabriel watched them, something stirring in his chest, a feeling he hadn't allowed himself in years. Maya noticed the faraway look in his eyes. "Why are you really here?" He thought for a long moment before answering. "Because people helped me once. When I had nothing but an idea and a heartbeat. I told myself that if I ever got to a place where I could give back, I wouldn't hesitate." Maya smiled faintly, almost bitterly. "You just didn't know it'd bring you under a bridge." He chuckled. "Life has a strange sense of direction." As the sun began to dip, Gabriel stood. "There's a small community shelter on Oakwood. It's not perfect, but it's quiet, clean, and safe. I've worked with them before. They'll take you in tonight, no paperwork, no questions. Just warmth." Maya hesitated, torn between pride and exhaustion. "Why are you doing this, really?" "Because Lila shouldn't be learning to survive before she learns to dream," he said softly. Her lips trembled at that, but she said nothing. Lila tugged her hand, eyes shining. "Mama, please. Just for tonight." The mother in her, tired, protective, and proud, looked at the stranger offering help. Then she nodded once, tears barely contained. "Just for tonight." As they walked toward the car, Lila turned back, hugging Gabriel's coat around her brother. "When I grow up," she said earnestly, "I'm going to buy you a new one." Gabriel smiled, throat tight. "I'll hold you to that." The bridge grew smaller behind them, its cold replaced by the quiet hum of hope. And though none of them knew it yet, this single ride away from the shadows would begin something neither wealth nor fate could ever have planned, a chance, a coat, and the beginning of a shared heart. The car ride to Oakwood Shelter was quiet, except for Noah's soft giggles in the back seat. The heater hummed, wrapping the cold night air in comfort, and for the first time in months, Maya didn't have to shiver while holding her son. She watched the city lights flicker past the window, the same lights she used to ignore from the bridge, now reflected in her daughter's eyes like stars she could almost reach. Lila leaned forward from the back seat. "Mr. Gabriel, are all those tall buildings yours?" Gabriel smiled. "Not all of them. Just one or two, maybe." Her eyes widened. "Wow. Mama says big buildings are for people who never sleep." He chuckled softly. "She's not wrong." When the car turned into Oakwood, the faint smell of bread and soap filled the air. The shelter was small but welcoming, a row of warm lights under a faded sign, steam rising from chimneys, and a volunteer at the door handing out blankets. Inside, the walls were painted yellow, and children's laughter echoed from a playroom at the end of the hall. Maya stopped just inside the entrance, frozen. The warmth felt almost intrusive. "I can't remember the last time I smelled clean air," she whispered. A kind woman named Mrs. Harper greeted them, her face lined with kindness. "Welcome. You must be Maya and Lila." Maya hesitated. "How do you?" Gabriel raised his hand gently. "I called ahead." She turned to him sharply. "You didn't have to do that." He met her eyes steadily. "I know. But you needed it." Mrs. Harper smiled. "You'll have a private room, just for tonight. Hot water, clean clothes, a place to rest. And little one," she bent toward Lila, "we've got cereal with marshmallows." Lila gasped. "Real marshmallows?" Maya's eyes softened, the corner of her mouth twitching into the faintest smile. "She's been talking about that for months." As Mrs. Harper guided them to their room, Gabriel followed quietly behind. The small space held 2 cots, a crib, folded towels, and a window that let in the faint hum of the city. It wasn't much, but to Maya, it felt like luxury. She set Noah down in the crib and ran her hand along the soft blanket, as if touching something sacred. Lila jumped onto the cot, laughing, her shoes squeaking on the floor. "Slow down, sweetheart," Maya said softly, but the sound of her daughter's laughter made her eyes glisten. Gabriel stood by the door, unsure if he should stay or go. He'd brought people comfort before, schools, programs, donations, but this was different. This wasn't charity, it was connection. "Thank you," Maya said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. He looked at her, really looked. The way she held her chin, proud even in vulnerability. The way her eyes guarded her gratitude, as if too much kindness might break her. "You don't owe me anything," he said gently. "I know," she replied. "That's what scares me." The silence between them wasn't empty, it was full of everything unspoken. Pain, trust, beginnings. He took a step closer. "You deserve warmth, Maya. You and your children." Her eyes flickered toward him, the faintest trace of defiance returning. "Deserve is a big word, Mr. Miles. Life doesn't always hand it out evenly. Then maybe it's time someone did." Before she could answer, Lila called from her cot. "Mama, this bed feels like a cloud." Maya turned, smiling for real this time. It was small, tired, but beautiful, a smile that carried the weight of survival. Gabriel took that image with him as he left, the sound of laughter behind a closed door, the hum of a heater, the sight of a woman rediscovering the meaning of safety. Outside, snow drifted down in soft flakes. He tilted his head back and let the cold sting his face. Somewhere inside that shelter, 3 lives were breathing easier because he'd stopped at a grocery store the night before. He slid into his car, glancing once more at the glowing windows of Oakwood. In his chest, something unfamiliar stirred, a warmth that had nothing to do with money or success. It was the warmth of purpose. And as the city lights blurred behind the windshield, Gabriel Miles realized he hadn't rescued anyone tonight. He had simply reminded himself, and them, what humanity still looked like when given a chance. The following days at Oakwood Shelter unfolded like cautious sunlight after a storm. Maya began to breathe again, deeply, freely. Lila laughed more, slept longer, and even started drawing on scraps of paper she found in the playroom. Noah's cheeks grew rounder, his cry softer. The world, for a brief while, felt gentle. Gabriel Miles visited often. He never arrived empty-handed, yet he brought less in things and more in time, long conversations with Maya over coffee, small games of peekaboo with Noah, patient listening when she spoke about her past. Each visit chipped away at the invisible wall between benefactor and stranger. But peace is fragile when you've spent years surviving on fear. It happened one late afternoon. The sky was bruised with dusk, and snowflakes gathered against the shelter windows. Maya was folding laundry when a voice outside froze her blood. A deep, slurred call, "Maya. You think you can hide forever?" Her hands trembled. The sound was a ghost she prayed never to hear again. She moved to the window slowly, her breath fogging the glass. There, under the street lamp, stood a man in a torn denim jacket, anger spilling from his stance. Darren. The father of her children. The man she had run from. He was shouting, eyes wild. "You think you can take my kids? You think some rich man's gonna fix you?" Maya's heart pounded. The past she'd buried had found her. Lila peeked out from behind a chair, eyes wide. "Mama, who's that?" Maya forced her voice steady. "Someone who doesn't matter anymore." She ushered Lila and Noah into the back hallway. "Stay inside, baby. Don't open the door for anyone." By the time she turned, Gabriel had entered the lobby, alerted by the commotion. His calm voice cut through the noise like steady thunder. "Sir, you need to leave this property." Darren sneered. "You the one feeding my family now? You think money makes you her savior?" Gabriel's jaw tightened, but his tone never rose. "No one here belongs to you. If you care for them, walk away before I call the police." "Police?" Darren spat. "They don't care about people like me." "Then maybe start caring about yourself," Gabriel said quietly. The man lunged forward, but two staff members blocked him. In moments, the shelter door was bolted shut, and the echo of Darren's curses faded into the snow. Maya stood trembling near the hallway, tears streaking her cheeks. "He found us," she whispered. "He always does." Gabriel approached carefully, as though one wrong move might break her. "You're safe now," he said. "He can't get in." She shook her head. "He doesn't need to. He'll find another way, he always finds another way." Gabriel hesitated, then said, "Then I'll find one too. A better way, one that keeps him from ever coming near you again." Her eyes met his, wary, wounded, but with a flicker of belief. "You don't know him, Gabriel. He'll never stop." He looked at her with quiet conviction. "Neither will I." That night, long after the shelter had gone quiet, Maya sat by the window, staring at the snow. The street below was empty now, but the fear lingered like smoke. She thought of Gabriel, of the steadiness in his voice, the warmth in his eyes. For the first time, she wasn't sure which scared her more, the man who haunted her past, or the one who might finally help her heal from it. Outside, the city slept, unaware of the small battle that had just been fought, and the bigger one still waiting in the shadows. Because the past, Maya knew, doesn't always stay gone. It watches, it waits, and sometimes, it follows. The next morning, the world outside looked deceptively calm, sunlight painting the snow gold, the city buzzing with ordinary life. But inside the Oakwood shelter, Maya's heart was still racing. The echo of Darren's voice haunted her like a storm she couldn't escape. She barely slept. Every creak of the hallway made her flinch. Every car passing outside felt like a threat rolling closer. Yet amid the fear, something else stirred, a quiet, steady flame she hadn't felt in years. It wasn't hope, not yet. It was resolve. When Gabriel returned that afternoon, Maya was in the playroom, watching Lila build towers out of colored blocks. The moment she saw him, her breath caught, half relief, half guilt. He shouldn't have to carry her chaos. Gabriel walked in, his presence calm but firm. "The police filed the report," he said. "And I had a friend from my security team check the nearby streets. Darren hasn't been seen since last night." Maya nodded slowly. "He never stays gone for long." "I know," Gabriel said softly. "That's why I spoke to a lawyer I trust. She specializes in domestic protection cases. If you're ready, we can file for a restraining order today." Maya froze. "A lawyer?" He nodded. "No cost, no catch. Just safety." Her hands tightened around Lila's shoulder. "I don't want my children growing up afraid," she whispered. Gabriel crouched beside her. "Then let's make sure they don't." For the first time, she didn't look away. The kindness in his face wasn't pity, it was partnership. It was someone saying, "You don't have to fight alone anymore." The rest of the day passed in a blur. At the courthouse, Maya signed trembling papers while Lila played quietly in the corner. Gabriel stood by her side, silent but steady, like an anchor against the tide of memory. When it was over, the lawyer, a tall black woman named Evelyn Porter, smiled at her. "You did something brave today, Ms. Johnson. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's what you do while shaking." Maya managed a small, tearful laugh. "Then I must be the bravest woman alive." Evelyn grinned. "You're not alone. We protect our own." Later, as they stepped out into the evening light, Maya stopped on the courthouse steps. Cars moved below, sunlight reflecting off windshields. The world kept spinning, but inside her, something had shifted. She wasn't running anymore. "I've spent years hiding," she said quietly. "Afraid of what he'd do next. Afraid of what people would say." But today, she looked at Gabriel, eyes shining. "Today, I didn't hide." He smiled. "No, Maya. You stood tall." A tear slipped down her cheek, but she didn't wipe it away. "You make it sound easy." "It isn't," he said. "That's why it matters." That night, back at Oakwood, Maya tucked Lila and Noah into bed. The air felt different, not lighter, but cleaner, as if fear had lost its grip. She stood by the window, watching the city glow beneath her reflection. Behind her, Gabriel lingered by the door. "You did more than survive today," he said quietly. "You took your power back." Maya turned, her voice steady now. "You helped me remember I had any." He nodded once, then left her to the soft hum of the heater and the sound of her children's breathing. As the night deepened, Maya whispered into the silence, not a prayer this time but a promise. "I will never bend again." And somewhere in that promise, fragile but fierce, the seed of legacy began to grow. Because courage, she realized, isn't born in comfort. It's forged in the fire you refuse to die in. 3 months passed before Maya truly believed the danger had ended. The restraining order held, and Darren had vanished like smoke. The courts, for once, had listened. Yet the fear he'd left behind lingered like an aftertaste, a habit of flinching at footsteps, of holding her children too tight. But life, with its quiet mercy, began to bloom again. Lila was enrolled in a local school. Noah learned to walk, each wobbling step a small victory cheered by everyone at the Oakwood shelter. And Gabriel, ever steady, had become a constant presence. He never imposed, never patronized. He simply showed up. Sometimes with groceries, sometimes with laughter, sometimes with silence that understood. One crisp morning, he arrived with something different, a small silver key resting in his palm. Maya frowned. "What's that?" "A key," he said softly. "To a house on Rosewood Street." Her eyes narrowed. "Gabriel." "It's not a gift," he interrupted gently. "It's an opportunity. There's a small foundation I started a few years ago. We place families in transitional homes while they rebuild. You'd pay rent when you're ready. It's yours to grow in, not to owe." She looked at him, torn between pride and gratitude. "You really don't give up, do you?" He smiled faintly. "Only on things that don't matter. You and your kids do." That afternoon, they drove to Rosewood Street, a quiet lane lined with tall oaks and children's laughter. The house stood near the corner, white walls kissed by sunlight, a small porch wrapped with vines. It wasn't large or modern, it was alive. Lila gasped the moment she saw it. "Mama! It has flowers. Real ones." Maya stepped out slowly, her boots crunching on gravel. The house looked almost shy, waiting to be loved again. She brushed her hand along the porch rail, the wood warm beneath her fingers. For years she had dreamed of safety that didn't come with fear. Now, it stood right in front of her. "Why Rosewood?" she asked quietly. Gabriel glanced at her. "Because roses bloom from thorns. I thought you'd understand." She laughed softly, a sound more genuine than she'd made in months. "You think too much, Gabriel." "Maybe," he said. "But some thoughts are worth keeping." Inside, the air smelled faintly of paint and lemon polish. Sunlight spilled across wooden floors, dancing on the walls. Lila ran from room to room, her laughter echoing through the halls like bells. "Mama! There's a window by my bed. I can see the sky." Maya turned to Gabriel, her eyes glistening. "You're sure this isn't charity?" He shook his head. "Charity is pity wrapped in kindness. This is partnership. You're building something, a life, a future. I'm just holding the door open." She looked around, her hand over her heart. "I forgot what it felt like to belong somewhere." He smiled. "Then remember now." That evening, as the sun dipped low, Gabriel helped them carry in a few donated boxes. Lila drew a picture for him, 3 stick figures under a house with the words "Thank you," Mr. Gabriel scrawled in pink crayon. He looked at it for a long moment before saying softly, "You should frame this." Maya nodded, tears in her eyes. "I think I will." When Gabriel left that night, he lingered on the porch, looking back at the light spilling from the windows. For the first time, he realized he wasn't just helping them rebuild their lives, they were rebuilding his. Inside, Maya whispered to her children, "We're home." And for the first time, the word didn't feel borrowed. The first spring rain fell over Rosewood Street like a baptism, soft, cleansing, alive. Water streamed down the porch steps, carrying away the last traces of winter dust. Inside the small white house, laughter echoed against the walls. Lila was painting by the window, bright strokes of blue and gold filling a canvas far too big for her hands. Noah toddled after her, holding a crayon like a sword. And Maya, once a woman made of shadows and fear, stood in the kitchen stirring soup, humming to herself. It had been a year since the night she met Gabriel Miles in that dim grocery store. A year since the promise of a little girl changed the course of so many lives. And though the pain hadn't vanished, it no longer ruled her. Every scar had softened into strength. Every sleepless night had turned into purpose. Maya now worked part-time at a community center, helping women who had survived what she once endured. Her face appeared on flyers across the district. "You are not alone, hope lives here." People came not because she was extraordinary, but because she was real. On weekends, she volunteered with Lila to deliver meals to shelters. The little girl would knock on doors and beam, saying, "We brought dinner," and stories. Gabriel sometimes joined them, usually carrying more supplies than sense, still humble despite his wealth. That morning, he arrived with his usual quiet smile, holding a basket of books. "I thought your new reading corner could use these," he said. Lila rushed to him, hugging his leg. "Mr. Gabriel. Guess what? My painting's going to be in the school art show." He crouched down, eyes lighting up. "That's incredible, Lila. What's it called?" She grinned proudly. "Still standing." Maya looked up from the stove, smiling softly. She said, "It's about our house. About life." Gabriel turned toward her, the weight of the moment catching in his chest. A perfect name. Lunch passed in easy conversation. The storm outside turned the windows silver, but inside was warmth and light. After the meal, while Lila napped and Noah stacked his blocks, Gabriel stood by the window watching the rain trace lines down the glass. "You've built something beautiful here," he said quietly. Maya joined him, her hands resting on the back of a chair. "Not alone. I had help." He smiled faintly. "Maybe. But you did the hardest part, believing you deserved it." She hesitated, her voice soft. "When I was under that bridge, I thought people like you lived on another planet. Safe, distant. But you showed up. You stayed." He turned to her, meeting her eyes. "I didn't save you, Maya. You saved yourself. I just wanted you to see what was already there." Their gazes lingered, not in romance, but in something deeper, mutual respect, the kind that binds souls who have walked through fire and come out with open hands. Outside, thunder rolled softly, and the smell of rain carried through the open window. Maya took a deep breath. "You know, I used to think legacy meant leaving behind something big, money, buildings, a name carved in stone. But it isn't that." She gestured toward the sleeping children. "Legacy is what they see when they look at us: strength, kindness, courage. That's what lasts." Gabriel nodded, his voice low. "That's what I wanted too, a legacy that breathes." For a long moment, they stood in silence, watching droplets race down the glass. Then Gabriel reached into his pocket and unfolded a small, wrinkled receipt, the one from the grocery store where it all began. He handed it to her. "I kept this. The night you said you'd pay when you grew up." Maya laughed softly, tears filling her eyes. "I guess I owe you now." He shook his head. "Debt repaid, in full." Outside, the rain began to fade. Sunlight broke through the clouds, scattering over Rosewood Street. Lila's painting, drying on the window sill, caught the light, its bold letters shimmering across a field of color, still standing. Maya leaned against the doorway, her arms folded, watching her children chase the returning light. Behind her, Gabriel lingered a moment longer before stepping out into the world again, a quieter world, but somehow fuller. The door closed softly behind him. The smell of soup, rain, and paint lingered in the air. Maya turned toward the window one last time, whispering to herself. "We're still standing." And for the first time in her life, those words didn't sound like survival. They sounded like triumph.